are back. It is fight season. It's me, Jesse Rowe, with Inside Fighting, and we have got our third-time guest. We've got the number 14 ranked bantamweight, Marcus the Maniac McGhee, coming off of a dominant win over Jonathan Martinez at UFC 309. Marcus, thank you so much for coming back, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, brother.
Yeah, dude. So, man, I mean, great performance. You pretty dominant win. I know you didn't get the finish, so it's your first time. It's your first time not getting a finish in the UFC, right?
Yeah, it's my first time not getting the finish, period. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, but either way, I think that's about as like dominant of a win that you can have without getting a finish. How are you feeling about your performance overall?
Yeah, I definitely feel good. Honestly, we always our biggest critiques, and I feel like there's a lot of different things that I could have done. And but again, I'm happy to get the W. Happy to learn in a win. Pros of learning in a loss, so I'll definitely take it. But yeah, there's a couple of things I wish I would have added to the game and stuck to going into the fight, and I kind of veered away from it.
Well, the obvious question I have to ask you before we sort of dissect it is: Are those legs okay? Is your leg doing okay?
Yeah, it's still good, and I'm already getting ahead of it. So, just getting. That's why I'm at this recovery spot right now, Eminent Wellness. Right now, they're taking care of me. Just did the compression boots, just a little swollen, a little beat up, but
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, it's fine. He's pretty accurate with those kicks, and he kicks pretty hard. So, I definitely have to give it to him. Hats off to Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how he beat Adrian Yanez, right? He get those leg kicks. So that was probably, I'm sure, one of your biggest concerns going into the fight. And I mean, so that's why you're there. That's what you're at the recovery center right now, taking care of that.
Yeah, yep, 100%. Which I usually come here anyways. Like, I'm usually here 2 or 3 times a week, especially during camp, just to take care of the whole body. They have a hyperbaric chamber, red light
Right.
therapy, cryo, a bunch of different stuff. So I'm always over here. But they hit me up right afterward, like, "Hey man, get in here right away. Let's get that leg taken care of." So now that we're back, definitely getting it taken care of.
So was that something that you were planning for this fight? Were you sort of did I imagine that you guys were planning that he was going to be implementing leg kicks as part of his strategy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's done it with so many different other guys, Cup Swanson, Adrian Yanez, as you mentioned, Saeed Nurmagomedov. Like that's his thing. He has a really really heavy left kick, low kick, and he relies on it very heftily. Honestly, I think he has a lot of other tools, so that wasn't the only thing that I was focused on. I kept saying like, hey, yeah, I know that he has that, but he has a lot of other tools. But going as we started fighting, the more I started to realize like, oh man, this is really the tool that he is leaning very heavily on.
Yeah. So I guess where I would go with this is it was so dominant like the first couple of rounds that he didn't start hitting you with the leg kicks until probably I think it was like sometime like midway through the second I think is when he like landed his first. Were you surprised by like the lack of activity that you were getting from him, because they were talking about it on the broadcast that he wasn't throwing a lot at you, and my argument was that I think that you were throwing so many angles at him, that you were throwing so much at him that he was a little bit confused. He wasn't sure what to throw. Do you feel like, were you surprised by his inactivity, or do you feel like that was just part of your strategy paying dividends?
No, I did think he would get thrown. I thought he wouldn't throw early on because I knew that I was gonna be, hitting those angles and throwing a lot at him. So I figured he wouldn't throw early on, but I figured, he would start to open up, especially when he wanted to land the leg kicks. I thought he would definitely start to open up, but he never really started to open up those hands, and it made it kind of tough for me to start doing some of the things that I wanted to do, because I was like, man, what is he waiting on? What is he waiting? Is he wait? He's got to be waiting for something. He's got to be waiting for something. There's something big there, and then it wouldn't happen. And I just like, okay, let me get back to work then. Let me just start working my hands, draw something out. So it was surprising to me. But again, he was really. I think he was just really focused on landing that kick. I think he has so much faith in the fact that that changes the scheme of the fight, and that's what he was looking to do.
On the broadcast, they said that they were towards the end of the third round. He actually engaged into a clinch with you, and that they thought that was a bad strategy, because they thought that Joe Rogan was saying that he thought that he should be attacking your legs more, that he was close to finishing that fight if he did so. Do you agree with that analysis? Do you think that that was actually something that if he had gone after your legs more, that like that was a possible outcome, or do you think that's overblown?
No, I think they're right. I mean, 100%, you can't deny it. If he had been able to, now, mind you, I mean, that's saying a lot. he was already trying to do that, and he wasn't. He was finding some success, but he was taking some he was taking some battering along the way as well. So.
Yeah.
But my leg was hurt. Absolutely. Any of those times, like I could have decided to give up, and if he would have laid more damage on it, I absolutely could have. He could have got me out of there. So, kudos to him for sure. But I definitely was still catching him with striking. And just being smart about it. I was switching into that orthodox stance, which is something that I should have did. I should have trusted my orthodox stance because I'm actually orthodox, not southpaw. But for some reason, I was just like, man, I felt like I was going to be able to negate those kicks a lot better on that southpaw stance. So that's why I kind of focused on that, which was another mistake on my part. I should have just let myself be free and fight. But I was like, no, I got to stick to this southpaw. I kind of kept myself limited there.
Yeah. Well, it worked out in the long run. That's all that matters. How did you celebrate that night? You're out in New York City. You're with your team. I'm sure you had some friends and family there. Like, how'd you celebrate?
Nothing too crazy, man. Because
Yeah.
honestly, my leg was beat up. So me and
Right.
the team went back to the hotel and iced my leg up real good and took care of my leg real good. And then my wife hit me up and was just like, basically like, "Hey, we're going out still, right?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And obviously she was having a little bit of fun. So
Yeah.
I just ended up going to meet up with her and a couple of her coworkers at a bar. I went over there for a couple hours just to, make sure I wasn't going to get in trouble with her. So reel her back in and head back to the hotel. So nothing too crazy. But me and her did stay in New York up till yesterday, and we just kind of went around the city, checked out some of the monuments, ate food, enjoyed ourselves, just enjoyed our company. We don't really get a whole lot of time, just us two. So we definitely took advantage of that.
Nice. What parts of New York did you see?
Mostly just Manhattan still. Like we went on that ferry ride to see like the bridges and also to see the Statue of Liberty and
Okay.
see a couple different things like that. We were gonna go over to the 9/11 memorial, but it was kind of later on in the day at that time. Went over
Yeah.
to Little Italy and Chinatown and checked out some stuff over there. Just a couple of Times Square. We went and checked Times Square out. Yeah, just so that was mostly what we did. A lot of food, a lot of
Yeah.
food.
Right. Right. That's what's the pizza, right? I imagine you got some pizza
Yeah,
while you're
yeah,
after the
pizza
fight.
definitely. Yeah, pizza
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
Burgers, fries,
Nice.
shakes,
There you go.
Nathan's, the
Uh,
works.
right after your fight is when Donald Trump showed up. Did you see him arrive? Were you there when he arrived? Are you allowed to stay after your fight, or do you have to bounce?
Yeah, we pretty much have to bounce. Like they did all my I didn't see any of that. I didn't hear any of him arriving at all. Because as I was walking out, I had to go see the doctor right away. Then I had to do
Right.
all my interviews and PR stuff. And then they hightail us out of there. So yeah, we didn't get a chance to stay. And I didn't know when he had showed up, but well, they kind of tricked me because everyone was like, "Oh, he showed up right as you walked out to your fight." And then I heard, "Oh no, he showed up right as you were walking back into the back from your fight." So I was like, okay, well, whichever one it was, apparently it was right around my fight.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I forget the timeline of when it was, but either way, wild moment. Regardless, did you? I saw that you called out. We didn't call out Jose Aldo. I'm sorry. You mentioned that you thought that would be a potentially a good fight for you. Um, Is that somebody that you want next? Have you thought about that? Has your team talked about it? Like, where do you stand now? You're 14th ranked. You have a chance to like really actually start getting some real big fights coming up. Where are you standing with that?
Yeah, I mean, Jose Aldo is a good one, obviously. And it wasn't again that I called him out. It was just like, based off of like the narratives that people make, that's a fight that I thought that people would make, not saying that that's the fight that I should have or that should be given to me. But again, that's a great fight, I know Rob is up there too. Rob Font's up there, and honestly, I'm not necessarily calling any of these guys out. I don't necessarily know. I know Eamon's ahead of me. Me and him were already scheduled. Me and him are scheduled to fight in September. So, that's not a fight that I'm against either. That fight actually makes sense too. I didn't know that that's how that was going to play out too. So, um, for me, I'm game for all these fights, and I plan to fight every one of them. I know I have work to do. So, I mean, if Aldo wouldn't want that fight, I can understand him wanting to fight more of a Dominic Cruz. Fight the guys that have been around, not a guy who's only 4-0 in the UFC. So, it just depends. It depends on who those guys want to fight, and then what the UFC wants to do.
Yeah. Well, whoever it is, I'm just happy to see that you're going to be getting some. You're going to be getting some big fights coming up. I guess what I want to ask is, I meant to ask this before. Fighting on the Jon Jones card. Did it feel different than any other fight week for you? Like, obviously, you're fighting on a big pay-per-view, so obviously that's always going to feel different than fighting on like a fight night or an Apex card. But just for you personally, fighting on a card with Jon Jones, arguably the greatest of all time, what was that experience like for you? Did it feel different? Were the vibes different?
Man, the vibes are always the same for me. I think I bring the vibe, I'd like to say. So for me, the vibe
Yeah.
was all good. Just the same vibe. Honestly, I felt like it was the same thing as a fight week in Vegas, but a little bit more hype. A little bit more hype. Obviously, we have an arena, more people are going to be there, and we're in a big city. So those things were like pondering in my head. But as far as like the staff and meet and running into Jon Jones and running into Stipe and running into the other fighters and all that stuff, man, everything felt just the same as normal. So I was super thankful to be a part of it, and it was surreal at how normal it felt. So maybe that's just me making it that way so that I can,
Yeah.
be in myself. But like, yeah, it felt like a normal fight week for me.
That's good. I think that's a good headspace to be in. Don't let the moment get too big for you, you know? Um, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. Oh, people, I'm just curious your thought. Obviously, you guys are like weight classes apart. Just on the topic of Jon Jones, what are your thoughts about UFC fans accusing him of ducking Tom Aspinall? What are your
Oh,
thoughts of that?
man, I just don't believe he's ducking anybody. I don't necessarily like to say anybody's ducking anybody.
Yeah,
This is the fight game, and I think that people forget that this is our job. This is our business. This is how we support our families. These are our not only this is like when we say this is our business. We truly are independent contractors. This is our business. This is our brand, and we have to be smart about how we build that brand. Because no one else is going to be smart about it. And the moment it's all over, we'll be the ones at the end of it basking in whatever glory or non-glory that we have. So no, I don't think he's ducking him. I think he's thinking the right way. He's like, man, if I'm going to go fight this young stud and give him the opportunity, we need to create a space where it benefits me too. Like it benefits me in the way I want it to benefit me. I can't blame him for that. After all the work that he's done, for him to want to make sure that a big fight like that against a guy who's extremely dangerous and young and hungry and who is going to make a name. I mean, if John comes and beats him, what is it going to prove? What is it going to prove? It's not going to make John any more great than he already is. But if Aspinall comes and beats John, he takes all of that greatness that John has created over the last years. So when you look at it like that, I that's how I can't see it him ducking him. He's making smart decisions to build a fight that makes sense.
yeah, I tend to agree with you there. Did you ever fight with the new UFC gloves? Did you fight with those at any point?
Thank goodness I did not. I was
Okay,
trying. I didn't fight. I only fought in January, and then right after January they came out with them. So I was
right.
like, man, thank goodness those things. I trained this whole camp, and I've had them, and I've been working with those. Did not like them. Did not want to use them, but was going to be ready to use them. So when we showed up to media day on Wednesday, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're not using these gloves again. I was like, thank goodness.
Yeah, were you happy? I imagine you were like, thank you to all the veterans that complained about this, because then I didn't have to use them anymore. Did-
I was so thankful. I was. I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie. There was a beauty because I was hitting mitts. Yeah. What was it? Yeah, maybe it was Tuesday night. Yeah. So we got in Tuesday afternoon. I was shaking out Tuesday night, and I was hitting the pads, and I was like, man, I do not want to use these gloves. He's hitting these pads right now is not feeling good. I'm gonna hit a person with these, so
right.
I did not want to use them. So when they did tell us that, I was like, thank goodness.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk. The people think that like the knockouts there were less knockouts with those gloves. Do you think that they were actually affecting the like the quality of fights that we were getting?
I would say yes. I mean, they honestly thinking back on it. I mean, if I don't want to during the whole camp, I didn't want to hit. I didn't want to hit the mids hard sometimes. So if I don't want to hit mids hard, then I definitely don't want to hit a person hard. I definitely think that they affected it for sure. And there were some stats to back that up as well.
Right.
I think guys were just afraid to break their own hands more so than anything.
Yeah, I did a video on it. I think it was like 10% down across the board, across all weight classes. It was knockouts were 10% down, measuring the same sample size. So, who knows? Whatever the case, you don't have to use them anymore. So that's all that matters, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the key component.
Yep, we got a big bantamweight fight this weekend in Macau. It's going to be going on at like 3 in the morning our time, so that's when the card starts. So I don't know if we're going to be up watching it, but it's be in your division, Petr Yan versus Deiveson Figueiredo. What do you think about that fight?
Oh man, I think it's a great fight. The matchmakers did the thing on that one for sure. Deiveson Figueiredo has impressed me in a big way. I've always been a big fan of Peter Yan, so definitely both great athletes, great mixed martial artists, and studs to say the least. I do think Peter Yan is going to edge out a win there. I could see him getting the finish as well, but if it does happen, it'd be in the striking department. I think that some of the things that Figgy does well, Peter Yan is better at. Now, don't get me wrong, if Figgy can get on Peter Yan's back, I think Figgy can finish anybody in the world. He has great grappling. I would even say underrated grappling. People forget how good his grappling is because of how he battered guys at 125. But he's shown it time and time again that he has high level black belt abilities. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to get on Peter Yan's back and get it finished as well. But if I was a betting man, I would bet that Peter Yan gets the job done.
Yeah, do you think that that puts him back into a title contention if he gets that win, or do you think the winner of this fight is in title contention?
I think Corey Sandhagen's got to be next. After whoever's next, I feel like Corey Sandhagen's got to be next. I really think he's done the work to do it. He's taken fights that are tough fights. To be in that position. So I really think it should be Corey Sandhagen that's next, no matter what, no matter how that fight goes. But yeah, outside of Corey Sandhagen, I do think that yeah, this would be the next fight for sure.
Interesting, Sand. Yeah, I mean, hey, you don't have to convince me. I'm a huge Corey Sandhagen fan. What about you versus the loser of that fight potentially? Does that interest you? I know. I mean, I'd imagine because the win. I'm saying because the winner of that fight's probably going to be fighting like a title contender or a title fight, right? So what about like a Figueiredo or Jan if they lose? Is that
Man,
interesting?
again, I'm not against any of those fights, but it's just crazy to think that I'm in the mix. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in the mix, like so
Just
it
think
could
about it.
happen.
Marcus, just like take a second. Think about your life. Think about what you've been through. Think about like how far you've come. And now here we are talking about you potentially fighting one of these big fights. Just like what does that mean to you? Like where's your head at with all that?
Yeah, it's surreal, man, and I'm just thankful. I'm blessed to be able to be in this position, and I look to not squander it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, I love all these matchups. I love the idea that I am in conversation for each one of them. So, I'll be getting back with my team and looking at what they think is the next move, and then seeing what the UFC really wants to do, how they want to push me along. If they do want me to jump again, or if they do want me to stay around where I am in the rankings and fight there. So again, I'm not too upset with any of it. I'm pretty blessed and thankful for it all. So it's
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. It's crazy to be in the mix like it is. I definitely look at it and go, "What is God doing, man? I don't know what He's doing, but I'll keep on lacing up my shoes and going to work."
Love it. Love it. Well, I'm happy for you. I got one more for you before I let you go. What were your thoughts on the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight?
Oh my goodness, I love the fact that Mike Tyson went out there. I love how he looked even the first two. He was really swinging that right hand. He let Jake know, hey man, you get touched by these hands one time, you might go to sleep. But then everything after that fell apart.
Yeah.
I think Mike Tyson's age really started to show, um, and I think that Jake Paul noticed it as well. And even though he went and did some work, I think that he did pull off the gas a little bit as well, which is respectful. Even if he doesn't come out and say it, I believe it. Like why in a fight like that go out there and try to hurt a man like Mike Tyson, a legend like that, and try to knock him out. So I do think it is man, it's amazing to watch a 58-year-old man, I don't care who he is, go test himself like that, go through a hard camp, go through everything he had to go through, and then step in there with a young gun. So for me, hats off to Mike Tyson and to Jake Paul. I liked it. I was happy with it.
Yeah, you sort of answered my question, but there were a lot of people who there are two different camps. There are people who think that it was like fixed and Mike Tyson was intentionally holding off, and there are people who thought that Jake Paul was taking it easy on him. So obviously, you think that Jake was sort of taking it easy. What do you say to people who think that like fights like that are fixed?
I just say, look at the person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't see Mike Tyson. Like, what does he have to gain? His money is not enough at this point. I think people play too much into money, and maybe maybe that's because they selfishly would do it.
Yeah.
I think it's because they selfishly know in their heart that they would throw a fight for money, like, and so they just project that on other people. But like, what would Tyson have earned, like, won from that? Going through a grueling camp, coming in fantastic shape, making weight, and jumping in their into the ring to just to. I don't know. I just don't believe that. And again, I wouldn't say Jake just like completely took it easy on him, but I think Jake noticed in the first 3 rounds, like, hey man, he is still dangerous. Like, I can't do anything in those. If I do anything in these rounds, create reckless, I can get hurt. And then once it got past those rounds, he was like, okay, now I'm not gonna get hurt at least. So now let me just put some work into the board on the board.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to go knock him out. So
Right.
that's kind of where I was with it.
Did you have streaming issues like the majority of America did, the majority of the world did with
Not
Netflix?
really. Not
Okay.
really, surprisingly. But I
Yeah.
was tired because I had already made weight and I was
Oh
eating all
yeah.
day trying to get my weight back up, and it was late. And my wife and the team were like sitting there trying to watch, and I passed out, man. And I woke back up when the fight was over because I was there I watched like the first 4 rounds, and then I was out, and then I
Yeah.
woke back up and the fight was over, and then I just ended up replaying it the next day. But and then my wife and them were like, all right, go. We're gonna take off and go do. My wife went back to her room, and
Right.
my
Right. Right.
buddies went to sleep because I was like, dude, I need to go to sleep. I'm gonna get up and eat some more.
Yeah, I forgot that it was right before the night before your fight. I'd imagine you needed a good night of sleep. I didn't even think about that. Well, Marcus, thank you so much, man. I'm happy for you. I asked this question to you last time. I'll just ask it again. Now you're in the rankings. I can officially ask you, where do you want to be? We're almost at the end of 2024. Where do you see yourself at the end of 2025?
I'd like to keep climbing those rankings. I'd like to solidify a place for myself inside the UFC. I'm glad that I'm ranked, but I still feel like I have so much more work to do to really put everybody on notice that this is just the beginning. So maybe up in the top five. Maybe in the top 10. So we'll see what the story has for me. But I definitely want to go back to work and get some great performances out there and let the people know who I am.
Love it. Well, Marcus McGhee, the number 14 ranked bantamweight in the world of the UFC. Thank you so much, and let's catch up again when your next fight comes around. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me on.